Nagpur sits in the heart of the country geographically, but the city is also at the heart of two very influential political and ideological movements that have shaped Indian politics: RSS's Hindutva and Ambedkar's Navayana Buddhism.
Dr. Ambedkar had never taken the RSS seriously.
For the RSS to kind of get some acceptability within Maharashtra.
In 1923, Nagpur saw riots after a Hindu procession passed in front of a mosque, and this led to communal tensions. And this was a turning point for Hegdewar, who was the RSS's founder. For Hegdewar and others with him, this showed the need for a unified Hindu mobilization.
When you instill a certain fear in the minds of the common masses that they have an enemy to fight against, and there is a danger lurking around them from some community, then in the name of that danger they can unite the whole Hindu community. That was the game which they have always been up to.
On Vijayadashmi on September 17, 1925, Hegdewar and 16 others came together to form what would become the Sangh. Their first mission was to volunteer at the Ram Yatra in Ramtek, a small town about 54 kilometers from Nagpur. The RSS envisioned a cadre-based social movement focused on strengthening the Hindu society. In 1927, another riot erupted in Nagpur, which led the RSS gaining more visibility in the city and marking the beginning of its expansion across the country.
Exactly 31 years later, on Vijayadashmi Day again, Nagpur saw another political movement start exactly from where I am right now. This is the place where Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in 1956 decided to make his historic conversion from Hinduism to Buddhism, and along with him, over 6 lakh of his followers to embrace Buddhism. And with that, a strong movement that went on to shape Dalit politics in India was born.
Ambedkar chose Nagpur for his Dhamma Diksha because of its deep-rooted connection to Buddhism. Historically, it was home to the Nag community who were Buddhist, and the Vidarbha region around Nagpur had a strong presence of Dalit communities actively supporting Ambedkar's movement.
Nagpur has a very special place in the history of Maharashtra, but also in terms of having two contradictory trends that are very much visible in the present day India.
He had chosen the Nagpur because it was a land of Naga people who were secular in nature, who were not following any sort of discriminative practices in their lives, and they were the fighters or the warriors, you may say, and therefore he has chosen this land for converting or embracing to the Buddhism.
While RSS and Ambedkar's political philosophy did have deep roots in Nagpur, the two of them had a very tense and a complex relationship.
Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar since beginning were against the extremist forces. Now RSS since its inception was a little bit extremist to its Hindutva, thought of Hindutva, and the practicing Hinduism. Now Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar you may say he was a person whose life is chiefly divided in criticizing the evil practices in Hindu society.
We must remember that even though RSS was formed in 1920s, you don't have RSS in such a strong manner that we see them today. RSS pretty much was a small organization, a small outfit with very little presence in Maharashtra even in 1920s, 30s and 40s. It is much later in 1970s or 80s it has grown to what it is today. And therefore, during Dr. Ambedkar's period, RSS was absolutely a very nominal force to begin with. We have to understand that part. That it was not at all a great, huge force with massive kind of volunteers that it has today.
RSS's Hindu nationalism and Ambedkar's commitment to democratic values were at loggerhead quite a few times. For example, when Ambedkar was drafting the Indian constitution, RSS had openly criticized him many times. In one instance, in their mouthpiece organizer, they had called Ambedkar's constitution not authentically Bharatiya enough.
20s, 30s and 40s, RSS was not a major point of discussion in Indian politics. After 1940, what had happened that when the Dr. Ambedkar had decided that he has to reform the Hindu society, and when he brought the Hindu code bill in parliament for discussion, that time they started criticizing him openly. Even before that, there is a history that they just burned the Indian flag, and there are many things which were done by them. But just before presenting the Hindu code bill before the parliament, there was an assassination of Mahatma Gandhi by Nathuram Godse. So in all that background, actually, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar wanted to emancipate the entire Hindu society, and therefore that bill was brought. Unfortunately, that bill was not could not be passed in parliament, but the RSS then went on becoming very much aggressive against the Dr. Ambedkar, and they started burning his statues, criticizing him, writing against him and his ideology in newspaper openly.
The tension didn't end there. The RSS also strongly opposed Ambedkar's Hindu Code Bill, which aimed to give Hindu women new rights, like the ability to marry outside their caste, seek divorce, and inherit property. They even organized protests nationwide to block the bill, showing just how deeply they disagreed with Ambedkar's reforms.
Because the Golwalkar and Hegdewar advocate the Hindu society, the country of Hindu people only. They do not believe in secularism, they do not believe in equality. They want that the caste and varnas which are created, they are to be maintained. And that is the basic difference between the ideology of Ambedkar and ideology of Golwalkar and RSS.
Many years after Ambedkar's death, in fact in the 1980s, things started changing. In 1981, in a town called Meenakshipuram in Tamil Nadu, hundreds and thousands of Dalits converted from Hinduism to Islam. And this is when the RSS started making an active effort to actually reach out to Dalits. They started coining a slogan which they used very emphatically, saying all Hindus are brothers and sisters. They started organizing gatherings across India and made a serious attempt to reach out to Dalits.
The RSS knows it very well that it has to take the Dalits into its fold, and so they have come to revere, in quotes, Ambedkar, at least in theory, if not in practice.
The RSS has also, in order to polarize masses and to get the votes, they started praising the teaching of Ambedkar. In fact, they use Ambedkar only for the purpose of vote bank, and if we leave the vote bank, then nothing more is done to impart his teaching to even to the shakas of RSS.
In 1983, they held a joint celebration of RSS founder Hegdewar and Ambedkar's birthday, which coincidentally fell on the same day that year. And later, they launched a 45-day Phule Ambedkar Yatra throughout Maharashtra.
So their attempt has been to appropriate Ambedkar so that they could woo Dalit sections of the society towards them, which they have been able to do to a great extent, not just in Maharashtra but everywhere. So at least in terms of voting, they have got some backing from the Dalit sections, which were normally very much against the ethos of the RSS. So that has been the success of BJP's politics, and the RSS has worked very assiduously, with great perseverance. They have worked among the Dalit sections, and they have been able to pull a substantial part of the Dalits towards them. But will that be lasting? That nobody knows. But yes, in electoral politics, they have able to manage to get some sections of the Dalits towards them.
An RSS observer shared that he holds respect for both Ambedkar and Jyotirao Phule, viewing them as reformers within Hinduism. This has been the most popular view coming out of RSS of late.
They themselves were never part of the freedom struggle. They never actually wanted to be part of the freedom struggle. But they are now trying to appropriate some of those icons, including the tribal icons like Birsa Munda. So that is that is part of the RSS game plan, RSS tactics. They are never with Ambedkar thought by their heart. That's a fact. Organizer had written an editorial against the constitution when the constitution was adopted. They had written an editorial against the tricolor. So for them to now say that their followers are Ambedkar is I think hypocrisy of the highest order. They are not.
While the RSS has over the years tried to co-opt Ambedkar and are now trying to woo his followers, can they ever be on the same page? That's the big question.